You were disappointed in Breath of the Wild. You were disappointed in Breath of the Wild.
So it depends.
Disappointed. You might like old Zelda, but you can appreciate it for what it is.
Hold up. Depends on how you play. I initially played on Master Mode, and I was very frustrated. The weapon durability sucked. The no dungeons was kind of disappointing.
But the thing is, like, within that structure of that game, I think dungeons really wouldn't have worked. Weirdly, the worst part of those games is when you get into the beasts. Like, the beasts weren't, like, bad. Not that I think they're bad. I just think where the game was most fun was literally everything outside of the dungeon field. Like, exploring the world, running into, what the fuck is this electricity dragon? There's a fire dragon? There's a maze in the middle of the desert.
There was
that was the fun. But the discovery and the big map.
But, alright, so, but imagine that. But, right, they, instead of the beasts, whatever, narratively, the beasts were cool. But imagine 8 actually good developed dungeons in Breath of the Wild with all the other shit still going on.
I'm about to say some hot take shit right now. I'm about to blow up the internet, and you and Mike on this one. It didn't feel like a classic Zelda dungeons. Classic 3D Zelda sucks.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Moving on.
Okay, it doesn't. I don't want to say it sucks, but it has not aged well. Like, sure, nostalgia.
Zelda sucks.
No, original has aged extremely well, which doesn't say like a 3D Zelda, like not Majora's Mask, but
Zelda 1 has not aged well. What was not tell me Zelda 1 aged well.
What was the one before Majora's Mask? The one that people love, because Majora's Mask. I'll give Majora's Mask that time thing was so unique that one feels fresh, but the time one, I know you just said it, and my brain already forgot that structure. The whole dungeons, the bad camera, that original 3D field of linearity just isn't as good anymore. And I don't want them to go back to that. My concern would be if they went back to that feel versus the open world. You choose your destination, you do what you want versus this linear structure.
And can I just say, fuck original Zelda?
Yeah, that's fine.
That was garbage.
But if you like Breath of the Wild, you like original Zelda.
No,
Breath of the Wild is literally 3D original Zelda.
I like Breath of the Wild. Original Zelda sucked ass.
Play it. I want to see you play it and say that to our face. I want to see you play it right now.
Sucked.
Pull your Switch out.
You got the nostalgia rose-colored glasses.
Pull out your Switch right now. We're playing it right now.
You got fucking glasses with.
Nah, bro. Listen, and
you sipping on Link's dick.
And listen, and I liked, like there's some of the 3D stuff I liked, but like when I've tried to play again recently, it was the last 2 years, and I was just like, oh, this just isn't as good. Like Twilight Princess, I loved that when I originally played it, but now I'm like, oh yeah, it does. A lot of 3D games haven't aged well though. Like even the ones I love, like I know Mario 64 hasn't really aged super well. Sure, it's still fun and the controls are still better than some games after it, but I wouldn't pretend it's even close to Odyssey. Wouldn't even pretend.
No,
my nostalgia makes it, but the controls, the graphics, the story, the level design is clearly better in Odyssey. And I think it's the same thing here. Like those games are great for their time, but they just haven't aged well. A lot of early 2D games haven't aged well. A lot of them, most of them.
I would beg to argue that design and story in Majora's Mask, specifically, might be better than Breath of the Wild.
Majora's Mask? Okay. Well,
Majora's Mask.
Sorry, I was hearing Ocarina.
I
think Majora's Mask structure was so unique that it falls outside of that. Like outside of that, what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that classic Zelda, the classic boy wakes up, grabs sword, goes to 8 dungeons, fights Ganon.
What are your thoughts on A Link to the Past?
A Link to the Past, so that's the SNES one, which also has that structure, but it's still was it still open world? I can't remember. Like, could you still go to any dungeon at any point?
You could go to some dungeons out of order.
I like that. I know they couldn't all be out of order, but they at least had like that choice of what you want to do. It's basically like Zelda 1, but with a little bit more structure. Whereas Zelda 1 was like structureless almost.
That's the big issue for me with Zelda 1.
It's the structurelessness.
appreciate it for what it kicked off, right? But the initial design was no hints. Here's a sword.
Figure that shit
Go.
out. Oh, there were hints.
But there weren't a lot.
You know what the hint was? Walk around.
Oh yeah, or the hint that some trees are burnable.
Yeah.
Okay, go around the entire map and burn every single tree until you find the fucking secret you need for the next dungeon.
Yeah, it's kind of like Morrowind.
Like, no, it's
kind of like Morrowind. Just do it.
Morrowind
play
gives
until you figure it
more
out.
detail. It doesn't say, "Hey, there are trees in the world and they're flammable. You better get to burning trees." It at least says, in this general direction from this main hub, this main city, it gives you a cardinal direction in a general distance.
Yeah.
In Zelda 1, it's just like, I don't know, burn some trees.
I won't pretend it's perfect.
There's trees all over the map.
It's definitely flaws in Zelda 1. But what I liked about Zelda 1 was how open it was, and weirdly the combat. I think Zelda 1's combat, which I really like. I really like 2D Zelda combat. I really like the grid base. You go left, right, up, down.
2D Zelda combat definitely peaked after Zelda 1.
Oh yeah, of course.
But I can appreciate the top-down Zelda.
I miss
is
that.
Fun. It's a good game.
Yeah, and I feel like 3D Zelda really moved heavily away. I mean, this isn't like an original opinion. A lot of people have said this for years afterwards, but it really moved away from the feel of original Zelda because it had to. They couldn't really. I mean, until recently,
every game
Breath of the Wild was the closest.
Away. Same thing as fucking Mario. Any game that you look at that was in 2D, it had to evolve for 3D.
But I didn't like how Zelda evolved, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because I they could have technically done Breath of the Wild in the past, but they wanted to change the structure.
Zelda went more into the combat. There's still puzzles, but it went more into combat with more basic puzzles.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the 2D top-down was definitely more puzzle-based.
And it definitely went less...
more simplistic combat.
And it went less into the exploration. Like, sure, you had a map, but, like... really, you knew where you had to go. You had to do Dungeon 6. You go do Dungeon 6. It wasn't as much of, look around. Oh, I stumbled upon this random dungeon. And I think I kind of like that about Breath of the Wild. I really, even though I read what you said, Mike, like he feels like the shrines were shit tier, but I really liked stumbling upon a shrine. Yeah. And there was nothing more like the dopamine inducing than, oh shit, there's a beep, 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 there's a shrine nearby.
So there's an aspect to this that I can definitely agree that I think the middle ground would have been better. I think if they made the map a bit smaller so there was less to try to fill in, because part of that was the problem. They made the map so big, and like, we got to put stuff fucking everywhere. If they made the map a little bit smaller, and then they could have used less shrines, and they could have spent more time on designing each shrine, so there would have been less repetition, it would have been more in depth, there would have been more to do in each one. It would have been go in, do this one mechanic, and you're done. I think they definitely went too open world, and they suffered for that. I'm not saying the open world's bad, it was good. They leaned again more into the combat and less puzzle solving.
Yeah, I know.
So you say it's similar to Zelda 1, and it is in the regard that you can go anywhere, but it's not focused on the puzzles like Zelda 1 was. It's the combat like all of the 3Ds are. And that's the disconnect. I think that's where it breaks down.
I guess like what I feel is like, I'm not saying it's perfect, because I know it sounds like it's perfect, there's no faults, but I feel like we're picking at like, it's a 9.5 out of 10, and we're like, even like saying certain negative things about it is like, but it's sure there's things you're not gonna like about any game. Really? Where do you rank Breath of the Wild?
It's tough to rank it, honestly. Trying to take everything into account. I mean, it's up there. I'd say more for me around the 7.5 to 8. And again, a lot of that
Breath
has
of the Wild.
No, a lot of that has to do with there's too many things to do that are all kind of mundane. Nothing feels special. It's a lot of doing the same thing over and over. Specifically the shrines and stuff. That's what I'm saying.
Midna's
like,
not in it. There's no baddie like Midna in it. That does take half a point off for me.
That takes half a point. Everything's repetitive. The weapon durability is cancerous to the point where I don't give a fuck about the weapons. Just give me the Master Sword and then the DLC that makes the Master Sword not fucking break all the time. I loved the weapons, but they broke so fast that I was like, I'm saving this now because this is how I play games that has a finite resource. I'm saving this for a special occasion.
And then you never use it.
Yeah. And then I never use it. Whereas if it had a bit more durability, I would have used it and been like, oh no, it's gone. I'll get another one.
It sounds like you're just a bad gamer.
No, it's just
you're playing it wrong.
And again, it was even with all the shrines and shit they tried to put into the world, it still wasn't a dense world with like crazy shit to discover. There's a lot of just open blank space.
For me, like, I guess what I liked about the open world was all the random stuff, especially since I wasn't reading deep into lore. I wasn't even looking into anything. That's one of the few games I genuinely just straight up played blind. Like, I didn't have any knowledge of what the fuck was going on half the time. So I just, every time I would discover, like, the dragons, I had no idea what the fuck was up with those. I didn't even know what they meant to the story. I was just like, there's a dragon. What can I do to it? And, like, I was spending time trying to attack it.
Trying to fuck those dragons.
Yeah. How do I get inside
of
it?
What can I do to it?
How deep does it? Well, I try to get on it, and then when you get on top of it,
trying to get on the dragons, get on top,
and like it's like the lightning one, it shocks you when you fall off, like that. Like I think back to the memories of that. I think too, like being in the ice place and trying to find that one shrine. Like I just enjoyed all the random. I felt like there was so many random things, and it gave me a reason to go to every spot of the map. Which there's no other open world game I can say that I ever played that I felt I had any reason to go to anywhere on the map.
Hold on.
Other than
I can respect a lot of what you said, except it gave me a reason to go to every spot.
I haven't played Elden Ring.
Did you go to every spot on the map?
I went hard in that game.
Did you get all the shrines, all the Korok seeds? Did you go to every spot of the map?
So there's only 5 shrines I didn't get, but those 5 shrines were specifically ones that come back at this time, and I was like, I'll just do that later when I want to do it. Like the one where you have to be naked and get struck by lightning or some shit, and then there's the one with the blood.
You say that those are bad game design because you didn't care to go back. You loved this game. You didn't decide to do them.
Well, I just never completed the game.
Meh.
I just never completed the game. I'm not gonna beat the game, but I never fully completed it. I stopped at the story stuff, which Mike just talked about. I actually liked that. Yeah. That also, like, I don't know what it was, but I liked the whole collecting the pictures, finding it, taking the picture.
The past.
I like that.
I was okay with that. I was okay with that.
It was great, but it wasn't horrible.
Take. It was different because every Zelda's like, oh, this has happened to me. But this time it was like, it already happened to me. I'm trying to remember what happened. I kind of liked that amnesia thing. I'll buy into that. That was kind of cool.
And the game was mysterious. Like I feel like a lot of Zelda games don't create like heavy mysteries. Like I feel like there's so many things that are just unexplained, which I hated but loved. Like
most Zeldas are straightforward. The enemies are X, Y, and Z because of A, B, and C. Like this is the world, and like sometimes it's nice to have that handed to you, but also it is nice to have that mystery where like you could probably dive into it, read all of the lore, read all these random notes and things,
and still come out like and still not sure.
And still be unsure, but have like more of an idea. Or you could just be like, fuck it, I don't know, I don't care, and just ignore it. I like that kind of lore. That's why I love Dark Souls. Like you can deep dive on Dark Souls lore, but you don't have to.
Same idea. You don't have to.
You don't have
no reason to. But if you do,
it's there if you want it. I like that approach to lore because it's
I like
never
the lack
necessary.
of cutscenes. Weirdly, Like, I know there were still some cutscenes in the game, and obviously if you do the memories, you get cutscenes if you actually go after them.
Yeah.
But that's another weird thing I liked about it. Like, I feel like a lot of, like, sure, that was cool when the first 3D Zelda came, having a lot of cutscenes and a lot of, like, sitting there waiting while the characters talk. You can't skip them. But I really like that Breath of the Wild was just like, here, play the game, and we're not going to interrupt you. Like, you could quite literally skip any dialogue, spam A, and get through the dialogue within seconds, and just keep playing. Like, there's no strings attached to enjoying the actual game itself. The story isn't forced on you. It's literally, if you want to, but you don't have to do any of this. You don't even have to do certain parts of the game. You can go straight to Ganon. You can do the two beasts you like, the area you like.
You don't even have to do 2 beasts. You can literally
you can do 0.
Like, I did the tutorial island. I got the sail. I'm fighting Ganon.
Pull up on me, Ganon.
Huh?
Has to pull up on me, Ganon. Like, pull up, like, let's go.
Yeah, I do really appreciate that. It's that aspect makes, I don't know, having that speed run ability, even though I'm not a speed runner, I don't usually care. Having that and having like the mechanics that you can like jump and do a bomb toss in like slow motion, shoot an arrow through another bomb, blah blah blah, and like
the climbing
yourself. Like there's a lot of cool aspects.
Yeah, the whole climbing stamina thing was fantastic to me. All of that, all of those weird mechanics.
A lot of the shit is giving me like 9.5 vibes for my scale. But again, the blandness of the open world, the repetitive tasks brings it so far down. If it was a shorter experience in a smaller world, it would be 9.5 easy.
But it can be.
It's well, no, but you manufacture that, but that doesn't make the short dungeons that you do any better.
I guess.
It just means that you deal less with the repetition. I wanted more concise,
focus,
intricate puzzles rather than a plethora of basic puzzles. Yeah, so that's the disconnect for me. I wish it was less puzzles but more complex.
Puzzles. I feel like it's just the difference in how we game too. I feel like it's like what we're looking for in the game. Because I don't think you're wrong. Like, I can see exactly why you don't like it. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I see why you don't like it. It's
I'm
like,
not saying I don't like it. The combat's great.
I mean that aspect, like the dungeon aspect specifically. Like, why you don't like that. Like, what I like, it's kind of like why I like 3D World and why, as I'm playing 3D World for the first time. And I'm like, oh, this is way funner than I realized. Because I like the whole, throw a concept at me, it's quick. Oh, I figured the concept out, next one. You might not see this concept again.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that, but world, like, I mean, we're talking about different worlds.
Different 3D worlds specifically.
But like, world, it's fast-paced enough, and it takes less hours to complete. So like, you're gonna see little things like that, and it's fine. I appreciate that, but Breath of the Wild is like, if you want to try to complete everything, you're looking at what, 80 plus hours, and a lot of those little mini dungeons are just the same puzzle, just differently aligned, but it's the same thing. You don't have to learn something new and figure it out quick, like you're talking in Mario World, like, oh, little puzzle, but you figure it out, it's new, it's cool, it's fresh, you're done. Breath of the Wild is like, okay, little cool new thing. Do it 50 more times.
Yeah.
Here's a different little thing. Do it another 20 to 30.
Do it again.
Like, and so it's different in that regard, that the repetition in Breath of the Wild, I think, is what kills a lot of the vibes. It's still a great game. The combat's great. The animation's great. The story's great. The repetition and mostly not diverse open world is what kills me.
How'd you feel about the climbing and shit though, or like the whole it's stamina in general, like the whole, like, I'm pointing, I see that, I want to go to there, so let me figure it out.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great.
Love it. I love climbing. I love figuring out how am I gonna get there. I can
like
see
seeing
it.
some
It's a
shit.
thing I can go to. I want to go there.
How the fuck do I get there?
That's great.
I'm
That's
worried
great. I just
Tears of the
think they
Kingdom's gonna
could've
lose
done-
that with the power to like just go up. I know they say it's limited, but we don't know how limited yet. So I'm worried that it might. I doubt they're gonna limit it severely because it's one of the abilities, and I worry that it's gonna eliminate the need 90% of the time. The what is it called? I forget the name of it.
Rewind?
No, not the rewind. The one where you can shoot up into the ceiling and then go through the ceiling. You don't remember that?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. You can just be like, I'm in a cave. I'm above the cave now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm worried
that will
about that ruining the climbing and shit. It'll make it quicker, but like a part of it was the slow burn for me of like, how the fuck do I get here? I see that mountain.
Yeah, because some climbs you couldn't do, or you could strategically do if you
that
planned where to stop, or like ate certain foods to get up. Like, I loved that because that was a puzzle in itself.
We might
that
lose
wasn't
it.
Just go up and you're fucking done. It was like, how do I get there?
How do I actually get there? And there's so many paths. Like there was no one path.
So there's. I see what you're saying, that we might lose that because of that ability, but I think that ability only works on the earth, on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of what we're thinking of, like, okay, I see that, I want to go there, how can I get there, is going to be more Sky Island rather than trying to climb a mountain, which might entail with more puzzles. Maybe, like we saw in the trailer, there's a rock that you find the rock, you hop on it, and you rewind it.
Where do I go? Where does it bring me?
Maybe some of those aren't that simple. Maybe you have to build an aircraft to get to it.
Oh yeah, I forgot you could build vehicles. I'm forgetting. I forgot that's a thing.
So like,
so climbing is gonna have less purpose because of that.
Climbing is gonna have less purpose because of all these things.
All these,
and that's why on the base level, they're like, dude, just you're fucking through the ceiling. You're on the next ground floor, whatever. Save you the hassle.
Have you seen
the Sky Islands are gonna be the crazy thing.
Have you seen the theory that the people think, I guess it's not a theory, but it's a theory. It's a prediction. So the game's gonna start in the Sky World.
I don't want to get too far off track because Mike did say something before we get into your new train of thought. Love the freedom. Just hoping for more variety. There's like 3 main enemies. Some actual story instead of. Yeah. So. Let's tackle this one point at a time.
Yeah.
The
there are only like 3 enemies. That's true.
Yeah, that was that was another. The open world doesn't feel diverse. It's very plain. There's Lionels, Moblins, Goblins,
and Lysolofs. The whatever.
There's the wizards.
The wizards too. I forgot about the lizards. I was thinking. I forgot about the wizards. So it's the wizards, the lizards.
Lizards.
The
Lionels.
Gang. What's that gang that always ambushes you?
Oh, the assassin gang.
Yeah, the assassinos.
Whatever they are, the ninjas. So I mean, there were more than 3, but I do agree that there was kind of a common theme. And again, I think this falls down to having such a wide open world that's so big. You're not going to design like 30 different fucking enemies.
No.
Whereas if you look at older games, there weren't like a crazy amount of enemies. There were reskins of a lot of shit.
Yeah, that is true. Back in the days, that is true.
So like,
they would just have different colors, and the different colors did different attack patterns.
Yeah, I think the diversity is probably on par with previous games.
Any Zelda game.
I think it's really just
even the 2D ones.
Such a wide open thing. They were filling it so much with the same enemy, especially open world. There was the same shit over and over.
Because I'm thinking,
I mean, I would love to see more.
Like even 2D Zeldas like had like 2 or 3 enemies. Like when you think about it, like when you go back even a thought, a lot of Zeldas just basically use like probably 5 to 8 enemies commonly, and then maybe you get one special boss.
And then there were the more nuanced ones with like the bats, but then there were like 3 different types of bats, and then there's
the same thing here, Jelly.
4 or 5 core enemies, then variants of those. So
because we even missed some. There's the Jelly in Breath of the Wild, the skeletons.
No, exactly. So it's on par.
Yeah,
it's on par with other Zeldas, I would say. So I kind of disagree with the variety of enemies. You do see goblins and moblins the most.
Mostly, yeah.
But it is also a world that was taken over by Ganon. Yeah. I mean, if you look at Link to the Past is one of my favorite Zelda games. A lot of the light world is just soldiers. There's soldiers fucking everywhere. There's the red, the green, and the blue. They're everywhere.
The variety.
It's like, it's... So I'll disagree with that point.
That's the other one. The story instead of flashbacks, which is, I guess, preference.
That's a preference.
I can't blame you for preference.
But it does look like there's going to be more focus on active story because now we already did all the flashbacks. Yeah. Now we already know what happened.
And now we're getting what caught up. Next.
We fought Ganon and Blight Ganon and stopped him. So now we're in the present again. We're not fighting an ancient enemy from the past. We're fighting the active threat. So I think we're gonna see a lot more actual story.
It also seems like the story is gonna be like not just big for this game, but big for the idea, like for Zelda as a series.
Yeah.
So I hope they're kind of building that hype. They're building that hype.
Yeah. I'm still hyped. Hyped.
It seems like it's gonna be like some revelations.
Yeah, it's gonna be some revelations. It's gonna set in place why this entire timeline.
Yeah, why all of this is this?
I think it's gonna answer a lot of questions that the fans have had since the Zelda timeline was a thing.
Or even since
originally, since the originals were like,
once it was 3D.
Well, no, because we didn't really know there was a timeline. We just were like, it's a Zelda game, just like it was a Mario game. We weren't like, they're all linked together.
Well, some of them...
There's so much details here.
Well, some of them did link. Like, that's the thing. Like, Link 1 to 2. And then even Link to the Past felt like a link to those first 2.
Yeah, like Mario Land 1, Link to Mario Land 2. Like, there was no, like...
People ask about the canon about Mario all the time.
Yeah, I know, but people didn't ask until a certain point.
Yeah, no, I know.
And it was more recent that it was like,
I think...
Wait, no, now we're seeing different links, some things are adding up, some characters are the same across these, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
That's when it was like, there's a timeline.
But I feel like that really heavily started, the whisper started with the first, the 2 N64 games, and then Wind Waker, and then it was like, but they're referencing things to these other games from this. And then Twilight Princess came out, and that was referencing things from.
I would say definitely more Wind Waker was when that whole door blew open.
Yeah.
Because like, Ocarina to Majora's Mask is like, oh well, for once I'm playing the same Link.
Yeah.
But there's no Ganon this time, so like I'm playing the same Link, but I already killed Ganon, so it's fine, whatever. But then Wind Waker, it's like, oh no, I'm taking the Master Sword out of Ganon's face.
Yep.
Okay, there's something here. There's a timeline.
And then the whole thing was about Ganon. You defeated Ganon, and as a blah blah blah, he flooded the world, and it's like
and you
like,
weren't around or whatever.
Yeah. And then it was like the evolution of like the species evolved from the N64 games in those games.
Yeah, the Zoras evolved into the flying, which makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. Because why would the fish people?
Flooded. There's more water, and the fish people are like, you know what? Now's a good time to get out of the water.
Yeah.
But that I would argue is when people really started looking at the timeline. Not anything before. People probably had an inkling or thought about it, but once Wind Waker came out, it was like, no, there is a timeline. What is it? Let's figure it out.
What is it? Where is it? Where's the timeline?
And then I guess the last thing, in some real puzzles that take more than 5 seconds to solve.
Yeah, I mean, that's what kind of the dungeon thing Casey was talking about.
Yeah, no, exactly. There were definitely some puzzles that were more puzzling, but there wasn't. Yeah, there was nothing like the olden Zeldas that I actually sat and fiddled with a puzzle for like 20 minutes to figure out. And I'm not gonna assume that that's me becoming an adult and having a galaxy brain. Oh, I'm so so smart now.
Casey's a big brain boy.
I think they dumbed down the puzzles a lot. Because there are times that I will replay older Zeldas and I still will like redo even games I've beat often. I'll still redo a puzzle over and over trying to figure it out because my memory's shit. But like, so that tells me the newer puzzles are just easy. They're not crazy puzzles.
No.
I
think they were meant to be like micro quick ones because of the whole Switch handheld, playing on the go.
And I get it. I get the whole concept, playing on the go, make them quick so you can get in, play a few minutes, get out. But I think they lost a lot of the magic with that.
I guess.
I
disagree.
think that's an opinion.
That brought me back to Zelda.
You know.
I literally skipped like 2 Zelda games because I was
you fucking sit on the pooper for like 20 minutes and play a game.
But not just that. Like I quite literally skipped like multiple Zelda games.
The specialized part of the.
Because like, I skipped so many of them because I was just like, these aren't like they're kind of the same game. I'm the target guy. They're like, oh, the guy who's shitting for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, the guy that's pooping on the toilet for 20 minutes. He's who we need to design puzzles for. Yeah. He needs to accomplish a lot of meaningful progress every time he poops.
No, I never got stuck. Any Zelda game that I've started, I finished. Like, I've literally, if I started it, I finished it. It just, like, after a while, it got repetitive. Like, Zelda was in a rut. It was simple. It was kind of like Mario during the New Super Mario Bros. Era, where 5 Mario games came out back-to-back and were pretty much the same game. I feel like Zelda was in that rut for a very long time. Like, where literally almost every game was pretty much the same game, fundamental, like, on a base level with small, tiny variations. And they were just packaging it and selling it to the Zelda fans as new games.
Which Zeldas are you talking about?
Literally everything between Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time. Between all that sandwich, we're all extremely similar. No, but I mean like the one end of the bread, one end of the bread. Like, I said it that way, but Ocarina of Time to Skyward Sword. That sandwich to me was all pretty much very similar gameplay wise. I'm talking strictly gameplay and structure. Like, you know there's 8 dungeons. You know there's going to be a water dungeon. You know there's going to be a fire dungeon. You know there's going to be this color and that color.
There still wasn't Breath of the Wild and you're singing its fucking praises and sucking its dick.
But you don't have to do the dungeon.
Don't talk about
No. But remember my one critique of the game, or the one thing I said I think I liked the least, was literally the beasts. Like the dungeons, those beasts were technically dungeons, and I felt like they weren't horrible, but I was just like, this takes away from that freedom, walking around this open world and experiencing it.
All right.
So that's my opinion there. I dungeons and Zelda just are the same shit now, and nothing wrong. I get it for like some people love those dungeons, so they want it again. I just never was the biggest fan, so I'm like, I don't need it again. Let's do something different. Let's spice this shit up.
So, what games did you specifically say? Skyward Sword and Ocarina.
Literally
of Time?
Anything from Ocarina of Time to Skyward Sword. So Ocarina of Time, not Majora's Mask. Not Majora's Mask. Sorry,
you didn't see Majora's Mask.
Not Majora's Mask. It's not Majora's Mask.
Okay. What about Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages?
I'm talking 3D Zeldas specifically. Sorry.
Let me clarify. We're already ruling out another Zelda.
Yes.
Wind Waker.
Yeah, I think that was very similar. Yeah, sure, you had the ocean, that you were sailing, but I still feel like the dungeon structures were very similar in concept. You had your ice dungeon, you had your underwater one, you had this. Wow. Okay. I'm not saying it was exactly the same, but I mean the structure.
Wildly disagreeing.
Okay,
moving on. Four Swords Adventures was top-down, so you're not going to include it. Yeah. Minish Cap, very
Twilight
different,
Princess
but also top-down.
Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess.
thought it was very similar. One of my favorite Zeldas, love it, but very similar to me. Combat was a little bit different. They went, they added in the parrying and they changed the combat, but I mean the structure of the game, the structure of go do dungeon. I love the story of Twilight Princess. That's why I'm not trying to say these games are bad. I'm just saying I want to clarify that because I know I'm gonna make this a video and there's gonna be comments trying to say Barry doesn't like these.
It's gonna be real bad.
I like these games. I just think they got samey for me.
Yeah, good talking to you, Mike. Catch you later, man. Thanks for tuning in.
Have a good night. Yeah, but they just got samey. That's all I'm saying. They got very similar, and that similarity was turning me off of, like, I never played Skyward Sword because I just felt when I saw it.
How can you even talk about Skyward?
I never said Skyward. No.
You said Ocarina through Skyward Sword.
But I've watched Skyward Sword, and seeing what I saw, I was like, the structure's pretty much the same as, and that's if I remember correctly, that's the biggest critique of it.
You gotta play.
I can see that this is structured similar. You can see.
Listen, man, game feel is very different than what you watch.
I know. I know this is deeper. I know that. I love gameplay and game feel. That's the biggest thing to me. But I just felt like the games in general, it got to the point where it was like, I don't think I'm missing anything if I skip this one. Unless I care about the story, which is why I watched it to get what was going on. But like game-wise, I was like, I don't think I'm missing anything here.
Then never play another Mario game ever.
Well, no, they're different. They changed those up.
Oh, they're different. They're different every time.
They are.
Tell me how they're different from
You've gone black and white.
Oh no. All right. Well, it's time for me to go anyway. Yeah, that's the cue. That's like my phone. Like, no, it's bedtime. You're done.
So Casey's coming from the grave, guys, to ask you to subscribe to our video and comment below how much you hate our opinions on Zelda.
Tell Barry how much he's wrong, please.
Tell Casey he sucks about Breath of the Wild. Oh, we're this way about Breath of the Wild. Tell us we both suck in the comments. Leave a comment saying who you agree with.
Let me know how many chili dogs this man eats.
Chili. You gotta come fast.
We'll catch you next time.
All right, bye.